Welcome everybody to Forza Motorsport 7, and today we're taking a look at the 2009 Audi Q7 V12 TDI. Now this is part of the first generation that was produced between 2005 and 2015. This version was introduced in 2008 and lasted into 2012. And yeah, in comparison to a standard Q7, not only is it got a massive engine, but it also has improved suspension, tyres and brakes, so it handles better apparently than the standard Q7. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of this car, but for two reasons I think it's worth having a look at. Firstly, it's not a car that has been all that common on Forza games. I think it's only on this one and Forza Motorsport 4. And secondly, for the kind of engine that it has going, which again is not all that common. Granted, we do have some cars that have diesel engines on Forza games, but none quite like this. It's got a 6-litre diesel twin turbocharged V12 engine producing 494 horsepower and 737 pounds-feet of torque, which is a huge amount of torque, fairly decent amount of power for an SUV from this time, and yeah, from the biggest diesel engine ever put to a production car. As well as also the most cylinders in a diesel engine ever put into a production car. So yeah, it's a gargantuan amount of torque from that engine, because it is a diesel engine. So yeah, obviously this car has a lot going for it in terms of power and torque, and with the all-wheel drive system keeping all that in check, it at least does somewhat handle. But because this car weighs 5,743 pounds, it's nowhere near the best handling SUV that is on this game or any other Forza game, quite frankly, because yeah, diesel engines typically weigh a lot more than a standard petrol engine. So not only do you have a huge engine, but it's also going to be weighing a lot more than a 6-litre V12 petrol engine would, which means you got a lot of weight up the front and a lot of weight in general with this large body. But despite the fact it's got a large body, there's really not that much in the way of practicality. Sure, you got 3 seats in the back and 2 seats up front, but the boot isn't, much bigger than any estate car that I've seen, and yeah, there's no seats either in the back. So yeah, even though it's a huge car with a lot of weight behind it, it's still no more practical than a saloon car in terms of how many passengers it can take, and no more practical in terms of passengers and boot space than, say, an estate car. So no real advantage in that regards. And yeah, even though it is an SUV, I don't think this is going to be all that capable of going off-road, since it's not got the highest of ground clearances. And yeah, in terms of off-road technology, it's hardly a Range Rover with locking diffs or anything like that. It's all very, very basic, unfortunately. So yeah. And then on top of all of that, I'm really not a fan of the looks. It's really rather plain and uninspired at the front. It does look like a taller Audi saloon, while at the back it just looks really rather like it's sagging a little bit. And yeah, again, really rather uninspired styling. But then again, most Audis aren't exactly wallflowers, but there are at least a few that I do really like the look of, but this certainly isn't one of them. Nonetheless, let's get out onto a track and see what this car can do. Right, so we're at the Nürburgring GP circuit for one lap. So let's see what this huge SUV can do with its huge engine. So since diesel engines are typically heavier than petrol engines, like I've already stated, it's got a lot of understeer, because a 6-litre twin turbocharged V12 engine at the best of times isn't going to be a lightweight engine. But when it's made into a diesel engine, because diesel engines are heavier because you need thicker cylinder walls and generally thicker materials in general to deal with all the pressures of a diesel engine, yeah, it's a lot of weight up front, which means that with the all-wheel drive system, it's an understeering car. And then you've got the soft suspension, as you can see. Even though it is supposed to be revised over the standard Q7, it's still quite a soft suspension setup, which means it's got a lot of body roll, which obviously isn't helped by the really high centre of gravity, which again comes down to weight. Nearly 6,000 pounds is a lot for one of these kind of vehicles. Granted, it's not the only one at more than 5,000 pounds in the SUV class, but I'm I'm struggling to think of anything outside of a Hummer that is any more weight than this in terms of the SUV class. And yeah, as a result, you can't really be confident in sticking it into the bends or anything like that. I really wouldn't want to drive one of these down a small type B road in the UK, for instance, because yeah, not only is it a large car, but I really wouldn't have any confidence in the vehicle being able to handle. But one thing it does well is acceleration and top speed, because 0 to 60 takes only 5.4 seconds, 0 to 100 takes 12.9 seconds, and it can do 176 miles an hour, which is really rather good. But I really wouldn't want to stop this at 176 miles an hour. I mean, the amount that it does, and not having all that good in the way of brakes. Again, it's supposed to be better than the standard Q7, but I don't know about how much, because they're really not all that great at all in terms of stopping this heavy car. And yeah, at the end of the day, I just cannot see the point in having a diesel engine that as big as this. Small diesel engines, yes, they're fine, they're efficient, they're economical, and yeah, they have a decent amount of torque to do what they need to do, but an engine this size is not going to be economical, it's not going to be efficient, it's making the car understeer far more than a smaller diesel engine would. And neither is it a sporty sounding engine or a sporty, you know, kind of engine to use in general. Doesn't sound very good, and diesel engines generally don't lend themselves to sporty driving, and on top of that you've got an automatic gearbox to deal with, so yeah. Outside of the acceleration and the speed, there isn't really much good coming from that engine, far more negatives coming from it. And on top of all that, the car doesn't handle very well either. So yeah, there are far better SUVs out there to try out on other Forza games, or for this Forza game. Even the likes of the KN is a better car than this, even though it's still ugly and you know, far too expensive, and yeah, nowhere near as you know, fun to drive as some other SUVs. It is at least a car that has same kind of power, not quite as much torque, but still same kind of power, and is a far sportier and better handling vehicle than this is. That is if you want a German SUV. Obviously, in terms of SUVs, for me, I'd go for a Stelvio from Alfa Romeo, or the Jaguar, whatever it's called, F-Pace. I'd much rather have those two. Not quite as powerful as this, granted, especially in terms of torque, but far more fun to drive, far better looking, and yeah, far lighter as well. But anyway, yeah, it is a car that I would like to return in other Forza games, because it is a unique vehicle in terms of its engine, and the fact that we don't have any other SUVs from Audi, in fact, on other Forza games. So yeah, it would be nice for it to have a return to the series. But yeah, it's by no means a good car. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.